Now, game week 4 went all right for me. I scored 72 points and I'm in 2.7 million overall. But I need to get rid of Rogers and Watkins this week. And I've got 3 free transfers and 3.3 million in the bank in order to do it. So here is my team selection for game week 5. Now, I already went through this on my transfer plans video a couple of days ago, so I'm not going to go through it in massive detail. We're just going to look at my team and how I got on in game week 4. So I scored 72 points and, like I said, 2.7 million overall. Last 2 game weeks have been a green arrow for me. You know, I'm relatively happy at this stage. I think a fair few managers above me will have used a chip at this point. I haven't used a chip yet, and I've got a good position with free transfers. And I think the reason I'm not just going to wildcard this week is because on the whole, I'm fairly happy with the team. Like, if I were to use a wildcard, the wildcard team would be like 3 or 4 players different. And I'm about to use some of my 3 free transfers to change the team. I just don't want to use the chip yet, basically, is what I'm saying. I'm really happy with where I am. Sanchez didn't keep a clean sheet against Brentford. He's not going to keep a clean sheet every game. It is what it is. Anderson, clean sheet, bonus points, and DEFCON. Really happy with him. Chris Richards has been all right for DEFCON. It wasn't a DEFCON game for him in game week 4, but he kept a clean sheet, as did Pedro Porro. Semenyo, I'm really happy that I made the decision to sell Palmer for Semenyo, even though Palmer has done well. Well, he scored after returning. You know, not having him when he didn't start this week, and you know, even if you kept hold of Palmer, the return I'd suggest was not luck, but you know what I mean. It was unexpected today, so I sold him a couple of weeks ago. I'm very happy I did that. Semenyo, by the way, I think he could quite possibly be the best midfielder in the game. I mean, 7.5 million I think he is now. I bought him for 7.1. Is there anyone better? And of course, he's taking penalties now for Bournemouth. I mentioned Rogers and Watkins. The 2 of those, we'll talk about them in a second, but I might be getting rid of them this week. Salah is my captain. The last-minute penalty against Burnley was a bit of a godsend, really. And obviously, Haaland did really well against Man United. Bruno Fernandes, no DEFCON, no attacking returns, no nothing really from Man United against Man City. They were really poor. Reinders, been a bit unlucky that he didn't get a return against Man United. Towards the end of the game, he had a really good one-on-one chance with the keeper. He chipped it over the keeper, but the ball just rolled wide. It was really unfortunate. Like the spinning curl on the chip took the ball wide of the post. So we could have had a goal from Reinders. I thought that was the game for him, really, with how poor Man United are in midfield. Just thought they'd run ring. They did, but they didn't have to get out of second gear. And unfortunately, Reinders, he didn't return. Watkins, 4 games, no returns now. Same with Rogers, right? They've probably got to go. And João Pedro, we were all really worried going into game week 4 with Maresca's comments about him, you know, playing in Bolivia, potentially not starting. I think due to the fact that Chelsea have so few strikers, he did. He got an assist and bonus points. So I'm pretty happy with that. And that's how my team got on. I look there, what have I got on my bench? Oh, a Steve who got some DEFCON against Liverpool. But yeah, that's my team. 72 points, 2.7 million overall. I just wanted to quickly say that all of the expected points and data you're going to see next to players coming up comes from Fantasy Football Hub. And if you want to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub yourself, you can using the link at the top of my description below. I get you 50% off. And if you don't win your mini league this season, you'll get your money back. If you tell Fantasy Football Hub you haven't won, they'll give you your money back. So if I do nothing to my team, this is how it looks for game week 5. Sanchez, Richards, Anderson, Porro, Williams. I think I'm going to bench Reinders because he hasn't seemed all that good for DEFCON. And I'm just not sure that the Man City Arsenal game is going to be all that high scoring. So at the moment, I'm of the mind of benching Reinders. Salah, Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes, Rogers, Watkins, and João Pedro. And like I said, this is just to remind you of the state of my team. 3 free transfers. 3.3 million in the bank. Got to talk about these 2, right? Villa, just in general, have been pretty awful, haven't they? They haven't scored, and I think they're one of, in professional football in England, they're one of either they're the only team or one of a very few number of teams that haven't scored a goal yet. Yeah, not been great of Aston Villa, but the saving grace, I guess, in any way for them is their great fixtures. Sunderland away. Fulham's not a great fixture, but it's a decent one. And then Burnley at home in their next 3. But I just think they've been so poor that I don't really care about the fixtures at this point. And with some of the players that are doing well in the game that I don't own, namely Erling Haaland, you look at that fixture in game week 6 and possibly game week 7 as well when he's got Brentford, comparing him to Salah, he's probably the best captain for those 2 weeks. And let's be honest, in terms of goals so far this season, he's done better than Salah has. So I want Haaland in my team for those weeks. I've got Watkins at the moment taking up a striker spot. So, and ROGERS, I could probably downgrade him for someone cheaper as well in order to facilitate bringing in Haaland. I just think this week is the time to let them go. Now, the defence is where I'm actually going to make my first transfer. I've gone from Pedro Porro to Van de Ven, and there's 2 players that I could replace. I think it makes sense to get rid of Pedro Porro. Now, am I saying he's a bad option in the game? Absolutely not. But I don't think, given Spurs' tactics around set pieces now, with Xavi Simon's probably taken the majority of the corners, and with how much Thomas Frank loves set pieces and how dangerous Spurs have looked from set pieces, I think Van de Ven and Porro will probably end up the end of the season on like similar points. So I'd be happy to save the million. The only other player that I could potentially get in here is Senesi of Bournemouth. Senesi has hit DEFCON in every single game that he's played so far this season. So he's another option. But I definitely think I'm going to downgrade Pedro Porro. I've gone for Van de Ven because I think his fixtures are probably a little bit better than Bournemouth. They got Brighton next and then Wolves and Leeds after that. Wolves have been, well, terrible so far. Well, yeah, I'm going to say terrible. They look like one of the weakest teams in the league, as the Leeds United. So Van de Ven's got good fixtures, but Senesi's got the DEFCON. So that's the decision I've got to make. But I think I'm definitely going to be selling Van de Ven. I'm going to stick to my decision, I think, to bench Reinders. Nottingham Forest, I think Zinchenko is going to be available for them. He will probably play left back, allowing Nico Williams to go right back. Murillo, it looks like he just had a knock rather than an actual injury, like an official injury or a long-term injury. So hopefully he'll be back alongside Milenkovic. And I think a back 4 of Nico Williams, Milenkovic, Murillo and Zinchenko is just about good enough. Away is away, but to keep a clean sheet against Burnley, I think they're capable of doing that. Whereas I'm not really sure, given how solid Arsenal are, where the returns are going to come from Reinders. So I think I'm relatively happy with that. Anderson's got Brentford at home and Chris Richards playing West Ham away. Sanchez, he actually has less expected points to Sanchez than Dubravka, but I can't bring myself to start Dubravka this week. So yeah, that's how my defence is going to go. I also want to sell ROGERS, right? And despite making that move to bring in Van de Ven or Senesi, they're both 4.6 million. I still don't have enough cash to bring Haaland in, so I have to drop ROGERS to a cheaper midfielder. And the 2 that I'm eyeing up are Anderson, obviously Elliot Anderson. The guy's been a bit of a, well, he's been unlucky, I think. In 3 of the 4 games so far, he's hit 11 DEFCON, and he finally got over the 12 mark against Arsenal for 15. Then you got Caicedo, who's hit it 3 out of 4 times, but is averaging 14.75 DEFCON per game, and he scored a couple of goals. Of the 2, I actually prefer Caicedo, but my team is in a position where I can't bring him in because I've got Sanchez, I've got Mark Gu, who's transferred back to Chelsea from Sunderland, so he's a 3rd Chelsea player in my team, obviously João Pedro. Spoiler alert, João Pedro's in this team. I can't bring in Caicedo, so I wouldn't say reluctantly, because I think he's still a good option. I'm going to have to go for Elliot Anderson. We'll get to the end of this team, and it has 0.4 million in the bank, basically, when I've put it all together, which leaves me, as things stand, enough cash to bring in Lucas Paquetá from West Ham, who I think could possibly be better than Elliot Anderson. He won't hit DEFCON as much, but I think with penalties and just with being more of an attacking player, he could get more returns. But there's Champions League and Cup games like this week, so it's just such a risk, I think, in order to make early transfers. So I anticipate that ROGERS will probably go down in price. Watkins might go down in price again, and Haaland might go up in price this week. So with all of that in mind, I just don't think when I actually get to make these transfers that Paquetá is actually going to be an option for me. So we've gone for Anderson. So that leaves me with a midfield 4 of Salah, Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes, Elliot Anderson. That leaves me with both Anderson and Reinders in my team. I was saying at the start of the season, you don't want to have 2 sort of 5-ish million midfielders in your team. But ultimately, I think this season, we've seen enough options in and around this price point. And I think I've got a strong enough bench where if one of them gets injured, I could just keep them on my bench if I needed to. And I've obviously got my wild card, free hit in hand as well. I think we're in a good position. So yeah, that's going to be my midfield. And that allows me to bring in Haaland up front for Watkins alongside João Pedro. So I'm using all of my 3 transfers. Just to remind you, I'll do Pedro Porro to either Van der Ven or Senesi. Got Van der Ven in the team at the moment. Who's there? Rogers is going to become Elliot Anderson, and Watkins is going to become Erling Haaland. So yeah, I'll use all my three free transfers, leaving me with 0.4 million in the bank. But I think my team is in a really good position. And when I look at especially game week 6, Haaland is in. He's ready to be my captain against Burnley. I can start Reinders and probably bench one of my defenders. I'm looking across my defence. I'd probably want to bench Richards against Liverpool. So I start Reinders against Burnley, 3-5-2. Richards goes to the bench against Liverpool. And yeah, I think that's a pretty decent team for the next few game weeks coming up. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating on the video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the Golden Goal YouTube channel, which should be just there on your screen. And yeah, thanks very much for watching. Catch you in my next video.